Oke berkati. Eh, eh.
So, as I had mentioned in the WhatsApp, we shall start at 6:15. So in the meantime, please check on the WhatsApp and prepare the discussion on the final M&E project plan as we had discussed. Be joining at 6:15. For those who have not yet registered for the conference, we said the conference is an important part of dissemination, and Kemi are organizing a conference. So please remember to consider and register either online or physical attendance. Physical attendance is highly encouraged. So please continue exploring. So we are about to start the next 3 minutes. So I'm requesting that as you know your colleagues who have not yet joined, try to mobilize them to come in. Said we will start at 6:15. We were using the first part of the hour to review our monitoring and evaluation plan. And for the monitoring and evaluation plan, the key components that you need to think through is, first of all, what needs to be monitored, or what is normally referred to as the statement of the problem. What is the issue to be monitored? Then you come up with a structure. For our last lesson, we are still within the discussion on the structure. We did part of it. Now, I want to complete the other section so that you can, as we discuss it, you can try and visualize within the sector in which you work, what will be the structure be like, and what are the possible pitfalls that you need to avoid. So, starting exactly at 6:15. Thank you. Yeah. Any vision from Kemi around? Would want to maybe pass an announcement or any communication regarding conference, or if they have on Tuesday we had Mr. Kamau. Do we have any other today?
I'm John from Kemi.
Yes, John.
I'm the host.
Oh, you're the host there. Thank you.
Link one. Yes,
Thank you.
welcome.
I'm using two devices, so you can put me as a co-host on both. Thank you. So, Mohammed, I can see Mohammed. Mohammed, are you in a position to lead us with a reflection or prayer so that we get started? Mohammed. Yeah. Mohammed, can you hear me? Yeah, already, I think Mohammed can't, not hearing us. Anyone who would want to give a reflection or a positive word of encouragement or prayer to get us started? Yes. Okay. Abuna. Okay, then, so just a reminder, we are, so this is where we stopped last time, and we were dealing with the components of monitoring evaluation plan. So we say the most step one is very important when we are defining the goal of monitoring evaluation. Then we say we need a theoretical underpinning. Yeah. Uh, that is mostly we in monitoring and evaluation, we use the theory of change. And we also need a log frame. Now, when you're thinking about components of monitoring and evaluation, the second important guidelines to thinking through the components is defining the indicators. So the indicators, they serve as specific measurable metrics that you can use. In the discussion question that I gave via WhatsApp, we said that you need to think through the problems or the issue that you're going to monitor. And as you're thinking about the issue, you come up with what we call the objectives of the monitoring. So there is normally the large purpose of the monitoring or the large objective or general objectives. For example, in our education system in Kenya, we have 8 goals of education. So everything that is done from the PP1, PP2, all the way to the university, our education system at whatever level is guided by the national goals of education. So whatever you do within the monitoring evaluation, there must be some objectives that you are focusing on. And those objectives, the guideline is that the objective must be SMART. Okay. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. Okay. Then the data, or when you're gathering that data, it must tell both sides of the story. So you must tell the quantitative, must use the quantitative data to give you the numerical value. So remember the example when we were dealing with reporting and dissemination, we talked about the DLP project by the government, that is distribution of these devices in primary school, the digital devices. So when you are doing the monitoring on the implementation of DLP, you can't avoid to have the quantitative data, which are the indicators of how many DLPs are working. Okay, the digital learning devices are working. Which one are not working? How many? Then you can show those that are faulty and those that are not faulty. Okay. Then the frequency of use, the learners borrowing. Then you also need to have qualitative information. Qualitative information in terms of if in school A, let's say Kajifichene primary school, the digital learning devices are not being used. So you'd want to know what are the challenges that teachers have, and in your finding, you could probably establish that it's because of the technophobia. Some of the teachers probably don't know how to operate these digital learning devices. Okay? So the reasons as to their use or disuse, or you may also engage in an interview, find whether learners enjoy the lessons that have where teachers use these digital learning devices. Okay, so that's what we mean by a balanced approach. And remember, in reporting, in report writing lesson, we said that sometimes monitoring and evaluation may constitute a team. So I may be very good at qualitative data, but in my team, my shortfall could be quantitative data analysis. So I would come up with a monitoring and evaluation team that compensates or that constitute that constitute multiple competencies. You know, I've been in a situation where in my workplace we do what we call assessment of schools, you know, utilization of funds by the Ministry of Education. So you could have a team of, let's say, quality assurance and standard officers, could have a team from education officers. You could also have a team from the school audit. Okay? Because each of those brings in some competencies. Because you cannot be a master of everything. So compensate your need. So as you are coming up with your monitoring plan, you need to know, you need to ensure that the team that you are putting together is able to give you a balanced approach. Yeah. But thinking through the monitoring and evaluation plan, you need also to know where to start. Have you established the baseline and targets? Okay. Collect baseline data. I remember in one of the organization, when the competency-based education reached the junior school level. So grade 7, grade 8, and grade 9. We advised the institution to do what we call longitudinal study to track the progress. Because this is a new curriculum, and you'd want to track what competencies have these learners come with as they are joining grade 7. Okay, and then you could also do a term, then you see these are the area of needs, or these are the competencies that they have mastered, these are the values that these learners have. Then you teaching and learning, the teaching within a given education level is more of an intervention. Okay, because each level has their learning outcomes that learners are expected to have. So you could track that progress, but you need the baseline to be able to compare at the end when they sit for what they call KJSEA or Kenya Junior School Education Assessment. Okay. Have they been able to acquire those learning outcomes evidence? Okay. Okay. Then now you note that we are now in the senior school level of education. It is the ultimate level within the senior school. I hope the organizations are now doing this is the right time to do what we call baseline. Okay, to establish, because senior school level, if you go to what we call curriculum designs, I mentioned that I'm going to be biased in my examples, borrowing from my education sector. That's where I will come from, so my apologies. But you note that Kenya has never had a senior school. This is the first time we're having a senior school. Then this grade 10 Senior school, there are defined learning outcomes that somebody who has gone for, well, who has attended senior school is supposed to demonstrate certain competencies. Okay. And they are normally stated by the end of senior school, the learner should be able to, or the objective of senior school is to ensure that the learner is able to. So if you're conducting a monitoring and evaluation on the attainment of those learning outcomes, you'd want to know these learners when they are joining senior school, at what level are they? Okay, so that now the learning in grade 10, the learning in grade 11, and then the learning in grade 12 by the time they are in 2028 is more of an intervention, and then you would want to do the exit. So this is to mean that monitoring and evaluation is time bound. And being time bound does not mean that it is something, the complexity. So as you're coming up with a plan, time is a crucial element to note that is the monitoring and evaluation for 1 year? Is it for 2 years? So what is the objective of the monitoring and evaluation so that you set realistic targets that you can be able to track within a certain time bound. Then as you are still thinking about the components, your components should be informed through how you carefully plan data collection and management. So how are you going to collect? Who are your primary sources of data? Okay. Okay. Is it an institution? Are they reports? Because you can do a desktop monitoring and evaluation where you would assess reports. Okay. And also the method we have mentioned about quantitative, qualitative, or mixed method. Okay. Then determine the frequency. And then the quality protocols with regard to the principles of data collection, so validity and reliability. But I would want to focus more on the sources of your data. Okay, sources of data is crucial and it's important. Remember, during the dissemination, we said in most of the research, most researchers, they collect data from people, from maybe, let's say in a school setup, you come and collect data from learners. Okay. Or you collect data from teachers. If it is something to do with anthropology, you are doing monitoring in that area, in that sector, collect data, you go sit in a society, you collect data from the sources. So who are the primary sources of your data? But you remember to give back. Okay. You remember to give back what we call what is referred to as reciprocity in the research. Reciprocity. Okay. And how credible, reliable is your information, the one that you collect? If you're doing what you call secondary data analysis, that is, you may not necessarily collect your data, but you would want to collect data from other reports. For example, we've said in the primary source, you would want to collect data from the chemist reports. How credible are they? Okay, if you are looking at on Tuesday, I think we had a very good example of learner enrollment in rural schools, and you choose classroom registers as part of as one of your primary source of data. Now note, I don't want uh, to point a particular school, but I will tell you, if you have interacted with some, let me use the word some teachers in schools or in the school structure, we call them class teachers, and one of the terms of responsibilities of class teachers is to mark the attendance register. I will tell you for sure, in my line of duty, I've met cases or incidences where the learners have been marked present, yet they are absent, or learners who are absent, they are marked present. Of course, the teacher just maybe it was on a Friday, they forgot to mark the register. Okay, they come Monday. Maybe the last time the register was updated is Wednesday. They just randomly mark the register. So if you are doing monitoring and evaluation, and you're using the class attendance register as your primary source of data, you can see that the credibility or that data may not be reliable, okay, because of the inconsistencies in grading. Okay? So you need to be careful in the choice. So in planning for monitoring and evaluation, you need to ensure that what you include as primary source of data is something that the source is credible and reliable. Okay. So if you do some piloting and you find that your register imemarkiwa, it is sketchy, you may not, okay, you may not want to use that kind of information. Then as you're thinking of preparing that plan, one of the other tips is to ensure that the roles and resource reporting, you have to establish the roles and resource reporting. So don't forget about funding, assigning responsibility. Who will do what? Like in this training, we had various facilitators. There was planning in this course. Who will teach what? Okay, and when? So assign responsibility clearly so that you don't have conflict of interest. You need to allocate budget, then design reporting structure. So all the templates should be ready. Although sometimes you can't avoid to have some templates being reported or being prepared when the monitoring has started, but those should be exceptional cases. Actually, what you should do is more of revising. No, not that with quantitative, where quantitative information is concerned, or qualitative data, or where the method will largely rely on qualitative data, quantitative, then there is rigidity. But when we are concerned with qualitative data is flexible, and that's why most researchers or monitoring and evaluation uh, professionals would prefer a mixed method because of the flexibility that comes with it. Okay. So I want to emphasize mostly on designing the reporting structure, and also the budget. For budget, the rule of the thumb is that your organizational budget, if you're working within an organization, 3 to 10% of the budget should be used and should be dedicated for research activities that include monitoring and evaluation. One of the organizations that I serve, I participated in the process of registering it as a research institution. And one of the criteria for registration of a research institution, be it the university level, or be it maybe like an organization like KIPRA, okay, even organization like Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, Kenya National Examination Council, you have that they have a research wing. Research is part and parcel of the engagements or the mandates of those organizations. And it is required, it's a requirement that you must have at least 10%, 3 to 10% of the budget must be dedicated to research. And this is where this aspect of monitoring and evaluation part comes. Then in the designing of the reporting structures, there should be a good hierarchy. For example, I'm expecting after this course, we shall be what we would call monitoring and evaluation professionals. So there should be a team leader. And if you have some sub-teams, probably a team leading data collection, a team leading data analysis. Okay. So the team, what should be the coordination, a team leading the design of the tools. So how do they, what we're calling the loop? Those reflection events that ensure that the teams that are leading, each other, not the teams that are leading a certain aspect of the monitoring and evaluation, they meet and reflect together, because the monitoring and evaluation cycle that you've been taken through, the output of one cycle is an input to another. Okay. The output of one stage is an input. The output of one is an input of another. So the last component to think through is you must consider risks and assumptions. You must consider risks and assumptions. And I think that's the risks and assumptions. They are what we call generic risks and assumptions. That there could be other that are specific to a certain monitoring and evaluation So sorry, I think I was speaking and muted mic. My apologies. So we're talking about risks and assumptions. Probably, what's the difference between risks and assumptions? Somebody, just to share. What are risks and what are assumptions? Their importance in monitoring and evaluation. Let's hear some thoughts.
I think I can try.
Yes, please come in and just help us to unpack the risks and assumptions.
Okay, I would like to maybe look at the risks, like some of the challenges, and possibly this one can be resistance maybe from the stakeholders in the case where you're presenting your report to them and then they don't see the value of it, maybe based on their interests or personal challenges. And then when we talk about the assumptions, maybe you're looking at the things that we just overlook and imagine that the report we are presenting is the effective one, which is going to bring solutions to the maybe the statement problem. I think that's what I have.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it said in the React button or the React button, you can appreciate that contribution from monitoring and evaluation professional. Thank you so much. Any other example now with a contextual example to unpack risks and assumption?
Maybe you can try an example of an assumption. An example of an assumption, you can say maybe students will attend classes on a regular basis. So you're assuming that, like that's a true assumption that students will attend class on a regular basis. But a risk is something like students may drop out maybe due to financial issues. So that's a risk because it might happen, and because of it happening, it will affect your results. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Also appreciate that context. Also, what has been typed there on the chat, assumption by Patricia. You know, teachers have enough time. That's an assumption and motivation to volunteer as mentors. You know, and the burnout, you know, I appreciate that burnout. The burnout can come up, especially if you're doing a longitudinal study, the burnout, you know, like that example that I've given of tracking the attainment of the senior school learning outcomes. To track consistently for 3 years. So you can imagine conducting monitoring and evaluation. You can imagine monitoring and evaluation of the Vision 2030. When did it start? We are not yet at Vision 2030. I think when it was first conceptualized in 2003, thereabout, and then implemented, I think, 2008 up to now, 18 years. They are fatigue and burnout can come out if you have done a master's or even a project in an undergraduate or any diploma that you're doing. You get exhausted. Can get exhausted, so burnout. So you need also to plan what are the opportunities? And we normally say it's not in this slide, but when you're planning for risk, you also plan for opportunities. Okay, risks and opportunities. If you take a course on quality management system, we have what we call risk and opportunity register. Okay, risk and opportunity register. You need to where risks are. Sometimes you can even convert the risks into opportunities for something else. Okay, so there is the risk of government change of policy, right? So when you are, by the time you are clearing your monitoring and evaluation report, there is a policy that your findings contradict a certain policy or the recommendations. And that's why literature review, if you have ever wondered why is it that literature review is referred to as an organic chapter within research, it's because you need to keep yourself updated. Even as you're drafting the recommendations, they should emanate from your findings and they should be backed up with literature. And the new policies are part of the literature because you cite policies within the literature. So you need to be very alive to that. Or risk 2027, Lois, you're talking about risk 2027 elections will affect school term dates, assumptions. The election process will be smooth, learners will proceed. Yes, yeah. In assumption, when we come to data collection, I want to mention one assumption we normally make, that you've been cleared by your institution, you've been sent out there to collect data. In school setting, or when you're conducting research or monitoring and evaluation, to be specific, there's what we call gate entry, or you need to negotiate with gatekeepers. So one of the assumption is if you're collecting data from a school, you normally make an assumption that, of course, I'll just get through. Okay, I'll be allowed in the school. I'll just be telling them that, you see, this is a government project and I can be allowed. I can tell you, you have to talk to the gatekeepers, the principals. You have to talk to, in a certain county, you talk to the county director of education. That is the gatekeeper within a county for you to get into schools. If you want to talk to teachers, you have to negotiate. You can't just assume teachers will talk to you. They have their employer who is in the independent commission. Teacher Service Commission is an independent commission. You need permission. You need to negotiate. So you can't just make an assumption that you will just go. Or learners can assume that learners will cooperate. You can decide. You can make an assumption. Your assumption can turn out to be a risk during the implementation of monitoring and evaluation, and that's why they are put together. You can assume that in the earlier slide, we talked about the methodology. If you are so rigid and you say, I'm only going to focus on quantitative, kwa sababu hiyo ndio naelewa, so I'll use a questionnaire. So how do you use a questionnaire? You may find that your source of data, the people, may not even be able to write, to fill in the questionnaire. So you assumed that everyone will be, if you're doing an interview and it is a focus group interview, make an assumption that your target respondents or the target interviewees will be available, all of them, at the same time, and they will keep time. Okay. Any other? suggestion with the contextual example? Yes, Philomeno, do you want to come in and speak about your assumption and risk? Candidates pre-mock exam risk students go on rampage where school infrastructure is demolished.
Yeah, assumption.
Yes.
Assumption now would be the assumption now would be now these exams remote doing, but the candidates improve the results. The school.
Okay. Yeah. So the examination.
Yeah, that there will be increase in performance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Like, sorry, for Kenya National Examination Council, when they are administering the summative assessment, right?
Yes.
You have monitoring and evaluation of how the examinations are being implemented. Okay. So are they
Yes.
following the protocols, the rules? So there's always the assumption that everything will go on well, but there are risks of some stakeholders within that examination process not adhering to the set out protocols. In some areas, when you do monitoring and people are determined to cheat, there are risks of the monitors, the people who are collecting data on the actual implementation of the examinations, even being attacked.
It's true.
Yes. So, my colleagues, monitoring and evaluation professional, there are professional risks that come with it. I'm thinking of on a lighter touch, then we need, if you're conducting a monitoring and evaluation that is at a high risk, you may need insurance. Like drugs. If you're monitoring drug and substance abuse, you are encroaching in other people's territory, isn't it? Yeah, the drug cartels and barons. Okay, so you risk. If you're monitoring and evaluating corruption within government, you've heard of the word corruption fights back, right? Those are the risks we're talking about and opportunities. So that's the conversation you need to have with yourself as a monitoring and evaluation planner. So, what is it? What's our takeaway? That's our takeaway. A comprehensive monitoring and evaluation plan is a structured document that defines how a project will track progress, measure success, and use evidence to improve decision. That's very crucial. And as we said, your plan should clearly outline objectives, indicators, data collection methods, responsibilities, and I talked about timelines. Reporting mechanism, and reporting mechanism should involve dissemination. I'm passionate about dissemination. We don't want monitoring and evaluation to gather dust. Okay. So today's session, I divided it into 3 parts. Part 1 was you to just engage, as I had indicated on the WhatsApp. You just to think through your final project of monitoring and evaluation. That's number one. Your plan. How do you come up with a plan? And you cannot have a plan without thinking about the sector, your sector, the sector which you work with. I've drawn so many examples from the sector in which I work. Education, mostly competency-based education. Yeah. So that was the first part. The second part was just to summarize on the components. Okay, what you need to think through. And then now the other part to wanted us to just give each one of us 5 minutes on what are you thinking through? What would be your monitoring and evaluation statement? What objectives? And what would your plan look like, so that you get inputs from your colleagues and from this session. So I don't know who is ready to get started to just talk through as also part of your takeaway from this training on the cycles that you have been taken through of monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So the presentation is part of the learning. What have you learned? Because if you present, you are thinking about the statement of the problem and what are some of the key components that you consider in your plan. Okay, that will be part of the learning. You'll be making learning visible. In competency education, there is a theory. If you read the basic education curriculum framework policy, there is a theory of learning called visible learning by John Hattie. Visible learning is making evident what you have learned. If you've been in the classroom from Tuesday, from the time the monitoring and evaluation class started, there must be some takeaway or learning. So it's an opportunity in the next the remaining hour, not the remaining 20 or so minutes of this session, just to share experiences of your thinking. So who will start? Hey, where are my professionals? Monitoring and evaluation professionals.
Okay, I'll start.
It doesn't have to be perfect. In masomo ya Gumbaro, we don't look for perfection. So freehand speaking is also off the cuff. Just speak out. My problem, my sector is. You could start by my sector is this. In this sector, I would be interested in monitoring this. Okay, and these are the components. Even if not all, you don't need necessarily to be systematic the way we've been listing them from Tuesday. Okay. Yeah, just sharing, and then these are my assumptions. Okay, and these are also I can anticipate such risks. So, karibuni. Yeah.
Hello, Mwalimu.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes,
Go
I
ahead.
can. Let me give a try.
Okay, go ahead. I like that.
Yes. So I have done something here, and first I will start with the title. That is Teacher Service Commission, TSC.
Just a minute. Would you want to? Is it something that you can screen share, or you just want to speak?
You can just speak.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes. So the title here is Teacher Service Commission, TSC, School Monitoring and Evaluation Timely Performance Contract Targets Progress Report. That is for the Teacher Service Commission. Usually they have an M&E Timely Performance report. So here we have the institution, we have the county, we have the sub-county, we have the zone, we have the term, and also the year. So here there is a table, and here we have the code, we have the target, we have the activity, we have the actual achievement, we have the variance, we have the cause of the variance, then we have suggested intervention. So here the target is to improve the KJSEA exam performance, and the activity here is to monitor or doing a lesson observation, checking records of work covered, checking of learners' work and assessments or cuts, and checking of class registers to curb absenteeism, and finally formation of subject panels and remedial classes to weak learners. Actual achievement here is the improved KJSEA performance, timely syllabus coverage, more assessments were given by the teachers here. There was a drop in the number of learners missing classes. Then more learners were also able to engage teachers due to the formation of subject panels. The variance, there was an increase in the number of learners who exceeded the expectation. The cause of the variance is remedial classes, the timely syllabus coverage. Then suggested intervention, more remedial classes for grade 7 and 8. Then introduction of the language policy, that is for English and Swahili. Then the strengthening of subject panels for the teachers. Then finally motivation of teachers through their welfare. Thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Okay. So what are some of the pitfalls do you anticipate and risks when you are conducting that monitoring and evaluation? Or it's not only for him, but you can come in and support that presentation by what would be some of the risks and or pitfalls or assumptions that you would make. Agona? So assumption could be maybe teachers are preparing professional documents as required. Okay. That's one other risk would be commercialization of professional development documents. you could go and track and think that teachers are actually preparing. But now, with the AI, with the cyber cave, you stand the risk of you remember we talked about credibility and reliability of the data. Okay. I'll tell you, one time I was doing lesson observation and I went randomly selected a teacher to observe, and then they just used the AI to generate the lesson plan. They had not prepared. Wakati alisikia tunaenda na yeye, ali just went and typed the topic, the strand and the substrand. And within by the time we went to class, nikamuuliza lesson plan, akasema ako nayo kwa online, kanipatia. But ali forget kutoa. Unajua, when you're using AI, after it does the work that you gave it, it normally asks you down there, would you want me to customize this lesson? So alishindwa kutoa hizo. So one more presentation. Anyone who would want to share their monitoring and evaluation plan, the statement of the problem, an objective, risks?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So my title was Monitoring School Attendance versus Actual Learning in Day Secondary Schools. So the issue to be monitored was, so most schools report high attendance, but like the performance or like the learning is usually very low. So I wanted to know whether students actually learn or they're just showing up. So so I decided to monitor the gap between attendance records and the actual like whether students actually understand what they're being taught through. So I'll do this through quick weekly assessments. So the structure of this MNE is, number one, monitoring, which will be done weekly. So the purpose of this is to track the attendance records and then conduct like short, like 10-minute quizzes per subject, and then compare the attendance versus performance. And number two is evaluation, which will be done at the end of the term. So the purpose of this is to analyze whether the high attendance leads to better results and identify this per subject. So a subject and performance. And then number three, learning. So learning will be continuous. So sharing findings with the teachers, and then adjust the teaching methods. So maybe extra support and doing extra classes after the normal 8 to 5. Yeah, and then anticipated pitfalls and mitigation. So a pitfall can be teachers may resist extra quizzes. And then a mitigation can be keeping the quizzes short and integrated into the lessons. Another pitfall can be students may not take the quizzes seriously. So a mitigation can be to make them like slightly towards a continuous assessment. And then another pitfall may be data may not be recorded. Data may be recorded but not used. So a mitigation can be monthly review meeting with clear action points. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on monitoring attendance and performance. You can see you even have indicated how you are going to track progress. Remember, baseline, midline, and end line. So how does it, how do you, the tracking aspect, I like the tracking aspect that you have brought out, and even the mitigations. And you can start seeing in monitoring and evaluation, you have to wear the hat of being proactive. When it comes to risks and assumptions, you have to be proactive. Monitoring and evaluation plan, you need to be proactive. Think through, think ahead, and plan. Oh, definitely, there's no plan that is foolproof. Something will go haywire, but the good, something can go wrong, right? But the advantage of planning is you set your mind into a solution trajectory. Anyone who has had time to, anyone else who had time to do the assignment and want to share the ideas, the class?
Maybe Mwalimu could give it a go.
Go ahead.
My title was, wait a minute.
Pardon? Your title was?
So for me, I picked what we did on Tuesday. So my title is Improving the Enrollment of Children with Disabilities in Rural Schools. So from this, I came up with a problem statement, which is we know that children with disabilities remain amongst the most excluded groups because they can't access school in one way or another. If it's stigmatization, if we have schools that are inaccessible, maybe there's the issue of the gender norms as well. So you find that most of them either end up staying at home, go to school on and off, and they completely don't go to school. So some of the barriers that the children with disabilities face is, I have mentioned a few: inaccessible school infrastructure, the stigma and discrimination from the community, and then there's also limited teacher capacity. We don't have enough trained teachers to handle these children in schools. And also amongst the schools that we have an inclusive unit for them, we don't have assistive devices or learning materials to aid them in learning. So as a result, we find that many children with disabilities are either not enrolled, they attend school on and off, as I mentioned, or they just end up staying at home. So some of the issues that we're going to monitor as we are working on this is the enrollment rates of children with disabilities, and also the attendance and the retention levels of these children in the schools, as well as the availability of the inclusive learning environments with infrastructure, the assistive devices, if you have the teachers, and all the support services that are in place to help these children cope well in school. So the structure of the M&D will have the key indicators. So we need to map the schools that have the inclusive infrastructure and support services. So we'll map the schools in the area that support these children or that can have these children in school, and then ensure that the learning goes on well. We also have the attendance and retention rates of these children, as well as the number and percentage of children with disabilities who have been enrolled in the school. So with this, we'll collect data, we'll review the school records, we will have household surveys. With this, we are going to identify the number of children who are out of school, and more so the ones with disabilities who are also out of school. So when we're doing the household surveys, we'll pick the total number of children who are out of school, and amongst these ones who are out of school, how many have disabilities. So we'll also have few informant interviews. We'll have with the teachers, with the head teachers. We also have with the education officers around the area, and also focus group discussions with parents and some of the learners as well, just to get a clear picture of some of the challenges they're facing, what has worked well for them, or what they may need more help in the school. We also do a school facility checklist. We'll assess the school and see if the school says it's accessible, is it truly accessible? Because we find that there are some schools that actually have them, but they are not up to standard. Some of them are either too high, some of them zimeharibika. So even if, sorry, a person with a wheelchair goes up, they can't smoothly get to the classroom. So we'll also do monthly monitoring of enrollment and attendance of these children with disabilities. How often are they being enrolled in school? And does the school actually keep this record? We also do quarterly reviews, so it's term 1, term 2, and term 3. Just do a follow-up and an analysis of how the school is carrying on, and we actually have more students with disabilities who are being enrolled. So my anticipated pitfalls and some of the mitigations, we have stigma and low community acceptance. So how to mitigate such a pitfall is we'll conduct community awareness campaigns. This will help with promoting inclusion to the community people, just for them to understand that disability is not a curse, disability is not, kurogwa. It's just something that happens. It's either something that happens during childbirth, so just to create that awareness to the community. And then we have, I had mentioned earlier, limited capacity among teachers. So we'll mitigate this by either training more teachers, employing more teachers and training them so that we can have an equal pupil-teacher ratio, so that we also have the students with disabilities we have teachers who are concentrating on them. We have poor data quality, so we can use standardized tools and also train more people to be able to collect the kind of data that we're trying to look for. So I think that's what I had. I don't know, I'm not sure if the pitfalls also cover the risks and assumptions. Does it, Mwalimu? Hello, can you hear me?
That's awesome. Hey, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. I would really wish to read and even participate in that one, because you've realized that, as I mentioned at some point, our education system at some point would have been taken to court, had neglected the policy. The constitution says education is a right. However, the special needs part or learners have been left out. And we said that now we have two forms of curriculum. We have the age-based curriculum, and we have stage-based curriculum. So age-based, PP1, PP2, mnaendelea hivyo, grade 1, 2, 3, 4, up to grade 12, 2028, the first bunch. But now, we now have stage-based also. Stage-based now, foundational level, go now to pre-vocational and vocational. What stage they are at. So your concept of monitoring is important, because we need to start now with the new dispensation of with the competency-based education. Are we tracking? Are we monitoring the implementation of this curriculum? What are the gains? Okay, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So as one last presentation. Any last presentation?
Okay, mine was just my aim was to look at the improvement of infrastructure
Okay, go
in
ahead.
an educational institution.
Yep.
The statement of the problem is that many educational institutions face the challenges such as inadequate classrooms, labs, or sanitation facilities. There is also poor
Okay.
maintenance of existing infrastructure. We
Okay.
have also the limited accessibility for learners
Mm.
with disabilities and insufficient monitoring infrastructure projects.
Okay.
All these issues hinder the effective teaching and learning, which reduces the student retention and compromise the overall quality of education. So I look at the issues to be monitored, one of them being the project input, whereby we look at the budget allocation and utilization, the procurement of materials and services. And then we have the project processes, whereby you look at the timelines of construction and renovation activities, the compliance with safety and quality standards, and also the stakeholder participation. And the stakeholders here, I talk of the leaders, the administrators, the teachers, the parents, and the community. Then the project outputs, we look at the number of classrooms, labs, and sanitation facilities constructed or renovated. Then the accessibility features also, which were installed or which has to be installed, right? Like the ramps. I look at the project outcome also, which includes improved students' attendance and retention, enhanced teaching, learning environment, and increased satisfaction among the teachers and learners. The impact, I look at it as the long-term improvement in academic performance and also strengthen institutional capacity and reputation. I look at the structure of M&E, which consisted of the committee, the administrators, the teachers, and the parent representatives. And then the data collections included data collection methods, which included site visits and progress reports, surveys and interviews, and even the photographic evidence. In the indicators, I look at the qualitative, both the qualitative and quantitative, whereby in quantitative, you look at the number of facilities built, the budget variance, and the completion timeline. Then the qualitative is the use of satisfactory or user satisfaction, safety, compliance, and inclusivity. Then the reporting frameworks or the monthly progress reports, quarterly stakeholder review meetings, and annual evaluation report with the recommendation. The anticipated pitfalls included the delay in procurement, budget constraints, substandard constructions, low stakeholder engagement, and even data caps or weak monitoring, and the sustainability challenges. And I look at the mitigation, for instance, for delays, we can establish clear procurement procedures. And in budget constraints, you can you can do the regular financial audits and contingency budgeting. Then on substantial construction, which can lead to unsafe or unsuitable facilities, the mitigation can be independent quality inspection, low stakeholder engagement, which can lead to resistance or lack of ownership. The mitigation can be continuous communication, participatory planning. Then on data caps or weak monitoring as a pitfall, which may lead to poor decision making, I look at the mitigation as training the M&E and using the tools, digital tools for real-time tracking. Then the last pitfall which I look at is the sustainability challenge, which can make the facilities deteriorate quickly. So the mitigation can be maintenance plans or allocation of recurrent funds. So this is what I looked at. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You all there. Thank you for the good to make one want to for three what should be such so this is important. And there is something that you have brought out in risks and assumptions as we wind up. Risks and assumption, I would want you to, you brought out that there could be internal and external. So the risks could be internal, organization. You talked about the organization. Procurement can delay your transportation to the field. Okay. So that is very good. In summary, on the assumption, I would like you to think of the pitfalls to avoid. Pitfalls would be too many indicators that can lead to overload of data. You collect so massive data until it overwhelms you. Okay. Unrealistic timelines. Beware of such pitfalls. Okay. And then ignoring, you need to consult the experts, and they can give you. You can learn from other people's experiences. Don't have to learn from your experience first. Where you can read from other people's experiences. Wakianza kukuambia this one cannot work, try to find out why can't it work. Okay? And then failure to update your plan, especially if you are dealing with longitudinal study. You may continue reviewing, and you remember we said in the plan have opportunities for reflection. So, ladies and gentlemen, monitoring and evaluation professionals, I would like us to stop there, and we'll be consulting on how you can upload that assignment of monitoring and evaluation plan, probably on the learning management system. So you'll get a prompt. You really want to go through, because that would be also the evidence of learning from this course. Otherwise, for me, it's been a pleasure taking you through reporting and dissemination, and also this monitoring and evaluation plan. You've been a very good cooperative class. I don't take it for granted. And my apologies today. I'm in a very noisy background. My apologies. Bali nilikuwa kazi, mvua ikaninyeshea, so I couldn't travel safely not safely in time for the meeting. So my apologies for the background noise. Otherwise, give this opportunity from someone from Kemi. If there is any announcement, if not so, we can call it a night. No one from Kemi who would want to pass any message, or we wind up the meeting?
I just wind up the meeting. I don't have anything to share. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll continue having a conversation on the WhatsApp and also on the learning management system. Otherwise, keep up the good work. I wish I had the powers to pronounce you, and I would have said, with the powers vested on me, I pronounce you monitoring and evaluation professionals, but we leave that one to the CEO. Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Evaluation of fish.